Oh, thanks. So now you should hear sound. Sorry, Jenny. um, I forgot to switch the channel because I can only stream one audio channel, so I have to put my microphone on the same channel. Sorry for this. So yeah, maybe a little explanation. I explained what the people in this picture are and a bit about what's going to happen. So the book is called Ascendence of a Bookworm. It's an isekai and it's a light novel from Japan and it's a pretty nice novel. I like it. So far I have 24 or 25 volumes, so it's a really impactful story. And yeah, I would say let's start again. This happened to me before actually. It happened back when I started with those reading stuff, and yeah, I read the whole story once and then I noticed that my channel wasn't set. So yeah, best thing is grab something to drink and then let's enjoy this nice evening. I myself, I have a Spezi. It's a mix of cola and orange and it's really tasty. So then, let's start again. Prologue. Urano Motosu loved books. Psychology, religion, history, geography, education, anthropology, math, physics, geology, chemistry, biology, art, language, fiction. Books were filled with the knowledge of all humanity and she loved them from the bottom of her heart. She felt rewarded whenever she read a book, packed with facts and trivia new to her, looking up on world, unbeknown to her through maps and picture analogies, made her feel the intoxication bliss of her world expanding. She was even interested in old tales and myths from foreign countries, as she felt like they gave her a glimpse into different cultures of ages long past. They were rich with history, and she couldn't count how many hours she had lost in unraveling their mysteries. Urano loved the distinctive scent of old books packed into the storeroom of a library, and even the dusty air enticed her so much that she would always head straight for the back rooms of whichever library she visited. She would slowly fill her lungs with the old, musty smell and look over the aged books, feeling elated from them alone. Of course, she also loved the smell of new paper and ink. She had fun just wondering about what would be written on those pages, what new information awaited her. Above all, Urano just didn't feel right when her eyes weren't scanning the lines of a book. In order to survive, she always kept a book close at hand, whenever she was taking a bath, using the bathroom, or even just walking around. She had lived this way from childhood to her college graduation, clinging to books with such fervor that everyone who knew Urano called her that weird bookworm. They said that she loved books so much it was damaging her life. But Urano didn't care, no matter what they said. She had books, and that was enough to make her happy. A large truck passed in front of Urano, spewing the smell of exhaust behind it. The warm wind flew past her, rustling her bangs. But she paid them no mind. All she cared about was hurriedly holding down the pages of her book before they flipped and she lost her pace. Urano, come on, that's dangerous. Stay close to me. Urano pushed up her glasses and gave a lazy response, focusing more on the words in front of her. She noticed that her rustled hair was getting in the way and quickly brushed it aside. An exasperated sound drifted into her ears and she felt someone pull on her arm, a little hard. Her brows furrowed. Shoo, that hurts! Complain all you want, a little pain is a lot better than getting hit by a truck and dying, yeah? That's true. I wouldn't want to die from anything but an avalanche of books. Urano wanted to live her entire life surrounded by books. If possible, she wanted to spend her whole life inside a book storeroom, where there's no sun to damage the pages, but just enough airflow to keep things comfortable. Time not spent reading books was time wasted. Even if people said her skin was gross and pale, and looked at her for being weak due to the lack of exercises, even if her mom yelled at her for forgetting to eat, she had no intentions of ever letting go of her books. If she had to die somehow, she may as well die getting crushed by an avalanche of books. That made her a lot happier than a slow death in a hospital bed. Urano sincerely believed that. I'm always telling you not to read while you walk. If I ran here, you definitely would have walked straight into the road and died in no time. How about a little thank you? But I say it all the time. I am so thankful. That don't sound too sincere to me. I am. It's thanks to you that I can read books while going scores, Shu. But even if I die, I'd ask a god to reincarnate me so I can keep reading books in my next life. Isn't that smart? Life ain't that convenient, Morin. Their conversation continued until they reached Urano's house. Shu entered with her, rather than going into his own house next door. As they were childhood friends and went to the same daycare, they had been raised like siblings practically since birth. He always referred to Urano's place as home, and nobody questioned that. Mom, here's what you wanted. I'll be in the bookworm. Call me whenever dinner's ready. Right. What about you, Shu? Is your mother planning on making anything? Nah, I'm eating here tonight. She's got work. Urano, I'm borrowing your TV to play some games. Uh-huh, go ahead. Urano raised her voice to Shu, so Shu could hear her, as she headed straight to the book storage room, left behind by her father, who had died when she was young. She opened the door and turned on the lights. The bookworm had a window for ventilation purposes, but it was tightly covered by a thick, light-blocking curtain to protect the books from sunlight. There were bookcases packed with books on all sides, and a desk with a huge stack of books on top of it. As Urano had brought so many new books that the shelves couldn't hold them all. Urano smoothly sat onto the desk chair without looking up from her book and kept on reading. Suddenly her vision shook. She concluded that an earthquake was happening and kept on reading as always. The shaking was harder than usual, which made it difficult to read. Her brows furrowed and she looked up, frustrated at the earthquake, only to see books dominating her vision. Here! Books tumbled from the titled shelf and rained right down onto her. Unable to dodge them, Urano could only stare with her eyes wide open, as she was buried beneath them. A new life. So that was the prologue. That was how Urano actually died. Well, she always wished to die by an avalanche of books, and that happened to her. It's actually not really such a bad idea to die. I mean, it's better than by a truck and getting isekai'd this way. Okay, so next chapter. A new life. It's so hot. It hurts. I hate this. A child's voice cried out directly into my head, filled with pain and suffering. Well, what do you want me to do about that? I had no idea what to do, and over time the voice grew increasingly quiet. The moment I realized I couldn't hear the child's voice anymore, the bubble-esque thing that had been encapsulating me disappeared with a burst, and I felt my consciousness slowly rising up. At the same time, I felt a hot fever and pain spread throughout my body, as if I had been affiliated with influenza. I nodded and agreed with the child. This certainly is hot, and It certainly does hurt. I hate it too. But the child's voice didn't reply. It was so hot, I tried moving around to find a colder spot on the bed. Maybe due to the fever, I couldn't move my body like I wanted to. But I struggled on regardless. And in the process of wriggling my body, heard the sound of something like paper and grass rubbing together beneath me. What's that noise? My throat should have been sore due to the fever, but a childish and high-pitched voice came out of my mouth. It was clearly not my own voice, and it sounded just like a child's voice that I heard in my head a second ago. I wanted to keep sleeping since the fever was making me feel so sluggish, but I couldn't ignore the fact that I was in an unfamiliar bed and that my voice wasn't my own. So I slowly lifted my heavy eyelids. The fever must have been enormous as my eyes were red and my vision twisted. Thankfully though, my tears were apparently serving as makeshift lenses, as I could see far further than I usually could without my glasses. What? For some reason, I could see the small, unhealthy-looking hand of a child stretch out in front of me. Weird. My hand should be a lot bigger than this. I have the hands of an adult, not a small, malnourished child. I could move the child's hand like my own, clenching and opening it. The body that I could move at will was not my own. The sheer shock of that revelation made my mouth dry up. What's happening? Making sure to keep the tears from dripping out of my red eyes, I moved my gaze around while keeping my head still. It didn't take long to notice that I wasn't in my own room. The bed beneath me was hard and lacked a mattress. It was using cushions made of something bricky and rough instead. The dirty blanket thrown over me had a weird smell, and my whole body was itchy, as if it were infested with fleas or bed bugs. Hold on, wait. Where am I? My last memory was getting crushed by an avalanche of books, and it wasn't likely I had been rescued in the nick of time. At the very least, I was sure no hospital in Japan would treat its patients on such filthy bed. What's going on? I definitely died, right? All signs pointed to yes. I did die, being crushed by books. That earthquake was at best a 3 or 4 on the Richter scale. It wasn't the kind of earthquake that killed people, so my death had definitely ended up on the news, something like, a college girl nearing graduation was crushed to death by books in her own home. That's so embarrassing. I died twice that day, once physically and once socially. I felt so embarrassed I tried rolling around on the bed, but out of fear for my heavy and pained head, I decided to double facepalm instead. I mean, okay, I definitely joked about it. I definitely thought that if I was going to die, I may as well die getting crushed by books. I honestly did think it'd be better than dying a slow death on a hospital bed. But this was all wrong. I had dreamt of a happy death at the end of a life surrounded by books. I honestly hadn't expected an earthquake to happen and crush me to death so soon. This is awful. I just gotten hired too. Oh, my sweet college library. In this troubled age of high unemployment, I had just managed to land a job in a college library. Through guts and determination to fulfill my dream of a happy life surrounded by books, I passed all the necessary tests and interviews and finally secured victory. This job would involve spending far more time around books than any other, and the library even had plenty of old books and documents. My mom, who worried more about me than anyone else, even started crying after hearing the news. That's wonderful, Orano. You actually found a respectable, good job. I'm so proud of you, she'd said, tears dripping out of her eyes. And days after that, I'd just up and die? My mind drifted to thoughts of how my mother must have cried after learning of my death. She, the mother I'd never met again, would definitely be mad. I could say with confidence that at some point she'd screamed, "How many times did I tell you to get rid of those books?" "I'm sorry, Mom." I lifted up a heavy, sluggish hand and wiped away my tears. With great effort, I slowly lifted my head and set my burning hot body up before looking around the room to obtain as much information as possible, paying no heed to my hair sticking to my sweaty neck. The room had only a few dressers for storing things and 2 tables, apparently beds, each covered with filthy blankets. Sadly, there was no bookshelf inside. I don't see any books. Maybe this is just a nightmare. A death nightmare? If a god had granted my wish and reincarnated me, there should have been books nearby. My wish was to keep reading books after being reborn, after all. While thinking things through with my feverish, foggy head, I stared at a spider's nest hanging off the dark, soot-stained ceiling. Soon, however, the door opened and a woman came in. Perhaps she heard me moving, or perhaps she heard me talking to myself. But either way, she was a beautiful woman with triangular bandana tied on her head, who looked to be in the upper 20s. She had a lovely face, but she was dirty. So dirty that I would assume she was homeless if I saw her on the streets. I don't know who this woman is, but she really should wash her face and keep herself clean. She's wasting her good looks. Mine. Here? The moment I heard the woman's incomprehensible speech, a mental dam burst and memories that were familiar, yet not my own, came rushing through. In the span of a few blinks, the accumulated years of memories belonging to the girl named Mine had crashed through my mind like a flood and beat against my brain, causing me to reflexively clasp my head in horror. Mine, are you okay? No, I'm not Mine. I wanted to protest, but I couldn't. I was overwhelmed by the incredible sensation of this strange, dirty room and these weak, small hands becoming familiar to me. I got goosebumps as the language I previously couldn't understand became fully comprehensible. The huge flood of information sent me into a panic, and everything I could see before me screamed one thing. You're not Urano anymore. You're mine. Mine? Mine! The woman called out to me, worried. But to me, she was just a stranger. Or she should have been, but for some reason it felt like I knew her. It even felt like I loved her. The love felt gross and alien. It wasn't my own. I couldn't yet manage to obediently accept that the woman in front of me was my mother. As my repulsion and love ground against each other, the woman kept calling out my name, mine. Mom. When I looked up at this strange woman I had never met before and called her Mom, I ceased being Urano and became mine. Are you okay? You look like you have a headache. I instinctively didn't want to touch my mom. She who existed in my memories, yet was someone I didn't know, and so I fell back onto the stinky bed to avoid her outstretched hand. I then shut my eyes to fully shut off all visual simulation. My head still hurts, I want to sleep. Okay, rest well, dear. I waited for Mom to leave the bedroom and got to work trying to grasp my situation. My head was messed up from the fever, but I wouldn't be able to sleep peacefully while panicked like I was. I had no idea how things had ended up this way, but it was more important to think of what to do next rather than get stuck on the past. Knowing how this happened wouldn't change the fact that I had to do something. If I didn't use Mine's memory to fully understand my surroundings, my family would quickly get suspicious. I began to slowly digest mine's many memories. I tried thinking as far back as I could, but her memories were those of a very young girl with a weak grasp on language. She didn't clearly understand everything Mom and Dad said, so there was a lot she didn't know. My vocabulary was so lacking that over half of those memories were meaningless. Oh gosh, what do I do? From the visuals of her memories, I determined a few things. 1. My family consisted of 4 people. My mom Eva, my older sister Tuli, and my dad Gunther. It seemed like Dad was working as a soldier or something. The most shocking thing of all, however, was that this world was not my own. My memories of my bandana-wearing mom showed that she had light green hair, a color best described as jade. It wasn't an unnatural dye green either. She really had green hair. Green so realistic, I wanted to pull the hair and make sure it wasn't a wig. By the way, Tuli had green hair and Dad had blue hair. My own hair was dark blue. I didn't know whether I should be happy my hair was close to black as I was used to, or sad that it wasn't actually black. There were apparently no mirrors in this residence, something like an apartment located on the upper floor of a tall building. So no matter how much I explored my memories, I couldn't find any details on my appearance beyond that. If I were to guess based on how good my parents and Tuli looked, I probably didn't look half bad myself, though my appearance had no relevance to me as long as I could read books, so I wasn't that worried about it. I didn't look that amazing as Orano after all. I could live without being cute. Really, I just want to read books. I feel like my fever would vanish if I had a book in hand. I can survive anywhere as long as I've got books. I'll endure anything, so please, books. Let me have books. I placed a finger on my chin and began searching my memories for books. Let's see. I wonder where they are hiding all the books in this place. Mine, you're awake? As if to intentionally interrupt my thoughts, a young girl that looked about 7 years old stepped lightly into my room. It was Tuli, my older sister. Her green hair tied into a slightly misshapen braid was so dry I could immediately tell she wasn't washing it at all. Just like Mom, I wished she would wash her face. She was also wasting her good looks. The reason I thought that was probably due to my upbringing in Japan, a country so fixated on cleanliness that other countries considered us to be obsessive. But I didn't care about this. There were more important things in the world, and right now, there was one thing I needed to prioritize above everything else. Tuli, would you bring me a book? My older sister was old enough to know how to read, so surely there were at least a dozen picture books lying around. I could still read despite being sick and bedridden. It's a miracle I got the burn like this, since I care more about reading the books of the different worlds than anything else. Unfortunately, Tuli just looked at me in confusion, despite my sweet smile. Huh? What's a book? You don't know? There are things with letters and stuff written on them. Some have illustrations too. Mine, what are you saying? Can't you talk properly? I'm telling you, a book! I want a picture book! What's that? I don't know what you're talking about. Apparently words that weren't in mine's memories ended up coming out as Japanese, so Tuli just shook her head in confusion, no matter how hard I tried to explain what I wanted. Oh jeez, do your job, auto translator! Why are you mad, mine? I'm not mad. My head just hurts. Looks like my first job will to be pay attention to everything people say and try to learn as many new words as possible. With mine's youthful brain and my 22-year-old gratitude, wits and knowledge, learning this language should be a piece of cake. I hope it will be cake. Even when I was Urano, I worked hard with a dictionary in hand to understand foreign books. If I thought of learning a world's language as a means to read a book here, I wouldn't mind the effort at all. My love and passion for books was so great that it pushed people away from me. You're mad because you still have a fever? Julie reached out her dirty hands, likely trying to feel how hot my forehead was. I reflexively grabbed her hand. I'm still sick, you'll catch it too. That's true, I'll be careful. Safe. By acting like I was worried about her, I could avoid things I didn't like. I managed to avoid getting touched by Tuli's dirty hand using the advanced social techniques of adults. She wasn't a bad older sister, but I didn't want her to touch me before getting clean. Or so I thought, before looking down at my own filthy hands and sighing. I want to take a bath. My head's itchy. The moment I murmured that, Mind's memories informed me of unfortunate truth. The best I would get was a bucket of water to dump over my head, and a tethered rag to rub against myself. No, I can't call it a bath. Oh, also there's no toilet here? Just a chamber pot? Give me a break. Attention, whichever god put me here. I wanted to live somewhere modern and convenient. My environment was so bad it honestly made me want to cry. When I was Urano, I lived in a very normal household. I never had any problems with food, clothes, using the bathroom or getting books. This new life was a huge downgrade. I missed Japan. It was filled with so many wonderful things I took for granted. Soft washcloths, comfortable beds, books. But no matter how much nostalgia I felt, I had no choice but to live in this new world. Crying wouldn't get me anywhere. I had to teach my family the value of cleanliness. As far as I could tell from my memories, mine was a weak little girl who often had fevers and ended up bedridden for days at a time. Most of her memories involved the bed. If I didn't improve my environment, I would probably be dead before long. I couldn't imagine from the poor conditions I was put in while sick that it would be ideal to avoid needing medical attention at all costs. I need to clean up this room and figure out how to take baths ASAP. I'm the kind of lazy person that avoided chores as much as possible, even with convenient modern technologies. I cared more about reading books than helping my mom, and I gotta be able to live here? I shook my head to get those thoughts out of my mind. No, like I said, it's a miracle I got reincarnated at all. I need to be more positive. How lucky! I get to read books that don't even exist on Earth. Okay, I'm getting exhausted now. First, in order to focus on reading books without worrying, I had to take care of my body. I slowly shut my eyes so I could rest, as my consciousness faded into darkness, one thought dominating my mind. I don't care what it is. I just want to read a book as soon as possible. Whichever god put me here, please pity me and grant me a book. Also, this might asking for a bit much, but I want a library filled to the brim with books too. So, I'm going to drink something? So, I just noticed that I have a pretty not so good reading position, to be honest, because my neck is starting to hurt a little bit. But yeah, let's continue. Maybe. 3 days has passed since I became mine. Those were 3 very intensive days. I had survived several brutal battles I couldn't talk about without crying. First of all, I snuck out of bed to try and look around the house for books, but Mom found me and forced me back into bed. She got super mad. I tried several times to escape, but failed every time. Every single time. It got so bad that she put me back in bed every time she saw me, unless I was using the bathroom. In the end, I didn't get any chances to look for book. Not only that, but even though using the toilet was the only freedom offered to me, it too ended up as a terrible struggle. The bathroom in this place was a chamber pot in the corner of the bedroom. To make matters worse, mine apparently couldn't use the toilet on her own before now, so I had to relieve myself while a family member watched. No matter how much I screamed, "I can do it on my own, don't watch!" Nobody budged. They got mad at me asking what I did do if I got pee everywhere. I ended up using the pot while crying, and believe it or not, Tuli complimented me. "Wow, mine! You've gotten really good at this. Soon you will be able to do it on your own," she said. I could appreciate that she was happy for her little sister growing up, but my pride, dignity, and self-respect as a human being were in tatters. By the way, not only did my family use the bathroom in a chamber pot, they even dumped it right out the window. Unbelievable! Changing clothes was a fearsome struggle as well. I tried doing it on my own, but my dad, who I barely knew all things considered, took charge and changed my clothes for me. That was so embarrassing I actually started to cry, insisting I could do it on my own, but he just interpreted it as me throwing a tantrum. Absolutely unbelievable. Since my original dad had died when I was young, I didn't really understand how to interact with a father. Although mine's memory told me I loved him, I could only see him as a mean-looking, muscular guy. He was super strong thanks to the work as a soldier, and all my resistance was crushed before his might. 3 days of constantly losing to my family resulted in my young, maidenly heart and sense of shame getting torn to shreds. I'm a young girl. My family has to take care of me. This is just how things have to be. If I don't think like that, I'll just die. I can't take this any longer. This life is too much. Or so I screamed in my head. But there were no helping my situation. Even if I ran away from home, a weak and sickly girl like me wouldn't be able to do anything on her own. I just end up running through the street in search for a shower, screaming in horror amidst the waste raining from above, until I eventually die miserably of hunger. Also, it may have sounded like I experienced nothing but failure here. That wasn't the case. I had my own small victories. For example, after being unable to bear my own filth, I asked Tuli to wipe my body over with a warm cloth each day, and she accepted. I mean, if I'm going to get stripped anyway, why would I not have her wipe me clean? I paused the point of shape here. I wonder if the people of this world have something against wiping each other's body. Tuli looked at me really weirdly each time she did it. But I felt great. The hot water in the bucket ended up filthy the first day, but lately it always ended up a lot more clear. That said, my head was still itchy. I knew we didn't have any, but I wanted shampoo. There was something else I managed to get, too. A hair stick to keep my hair together. I asked for a wooden stick to keep my long straight hair from getting everywhere, and Tuli actually carved one out of a piece of wood for me. Well, the first thing I did was find Tuli's doll and ask if I could snap its leg off, which made her cry. I do feel bad about it. But to be fair, even though it was precious to her, with pieces carved out of wood by Dad and clothes seen by Mom, it just kinda looked like a cheap toy to me. I didn't know it was important at a glance. Anyway, I rolled my hair into a bun, but Tuli told me that only adults wore all of their hair up like that, so I settled on a half-up hairstyle. This world culture sure is different. I was stuck humiliating myself every day, so the only thing left for me to do was get on my own 2 feet and improve things however I could. To that end, I needed books. The first step to improving my life here would be getting books. With books, I wouldn't mind spending my whole life in bed, and I could deal with the harsher aspects of life. I could and I would. So I decided to explore my house today through any means necessary. I hadn't read any book in a long time, and withdrawal symptoms were beginning to show. It wouldn't be long before I started screaming, "Books, give me books, wah!" while sobbing and flailing. "Mine, are you asleep?" Julie opened the door and popped her head in. After seeing that I was still quietly lying in bed, she nodded to herself in satisfaction. Over the past 3 days, I had constantly snuck out of bed after waking up and tried looking for books, so both Mom and Julie, who had been taking care of me most of the time, were completely on guard. Julie in particular was desperate to keep me in bed while Mom was at work throughout the day, since she had been entrusted with babysitting me. My small body was incapable of beating Julie, no matter how hard I tried to run away. "One day I'm gonna ascend out of here." What was that, mine? I just said that I can't wait to grow up. Julie, naturally not noticing the true intent behind my sugar-coated words, gave a troubled smile. "You'll get a lot bigger once your sickness goes away. You're sick all the time, so you barely eat. Sometimes people think you're 3 years old, even though you're already 5. What about you, Julie? I'm 6 years old, but a lot of people think I'm 7 or 8, so I think I'll be okay." We were born a year apart, and there's this much of a difference between us? Looked like my ascension might end up being a little harder than I thought. But I won't give up. I will clean this place up, eat carefully, and get healthy in no time. Mom went to work, so I'm going to go wash the dishes. Don't get out of bed, okay? No matter what. You wouldn't get better if you don't sleep, and if you don't get better, you won't grow. I had been acting nice for the past day in order to loosen up Julie's guard quietly, waiting in bed for the moment she left. "Okay, I'm going. Be good while I'm gone." "Okay." I gave Julie the answer she wanted, and she shut the bedroom door. "Now hurry up and leave." I quietly waited for Julie to gather the dishes into the basket and take them outside. I didn't know where she washed them, but I knew she generally went out for 30 minutes when doing so. Our home didn't have any water, so I could extrapolate that there was a shared source of water outside somewhere. I heard the clink of the lock and then listened as Julie's footsteps disappeared down the steps. "Okay, it's haunting time." Julie's definitely old enough to have a few picture books around the place. I'll find some books in no time, once I start looking. Definitely. No way there's a house without books in it. I probably wouldn't be able to actually read the book, but I'll be able to imagine what's going on from the pictures and get what the words mean. Once Julie's footstep had completely vanished, I stealthily slipped out of bed. I winced a little after my feet touched the floor. It was covered in dirt and felt grimy. My family had made a filthy walking around with their dirty shoes, and although I dreaded walking on it with my bare feet, Julie had taken away my clock-like wooden shoes to prevent me from going anywhere. I had no choice. Well, finding books is more important than keeping my feet clean anyway. The bed, which I had been locked in for days due to my unrelenting fever, had a basket beside it filled with children's toys made from wood and straw, but no books. It would be a lot easier for me if they were just in here. I could feel dirt rubbing against the bottom of my feet each time I walked. It was normal in this family to keep shoes on in the house, so I knew nothing would come from me complaining. I knew it, but I couldn't help myself. Would someone bring me a broom and rag, please? Naturally, no one responded to my call, and neither a broom nor rag magically appeared out of nowhere. Ugh. Am I already in trouble? To me, the biggest hurdle to exploring the house was the bedroom door. I could kind of reach the doorknob if I stretched really, really hard, but actually turning it was a lot harder than I expected. I looked around the room for something I could step on, and noticed a large box that contained my clothing. I would have had a problem moving it back in my Wano days, but my hands were so small now that I couldn't make it bunch no matter how hard I pushed. I thought about turning the toy-filled basket upside down and standing on it since I was so small anyway. But I was still probably heavy enough that its end up crashed. I need to grow up fast. There's so many things I can't do with this body. I looked around the room and after thinking about what I could move, settled on a balling up my parents' comforter as used as a stepping stool. I would hate putting my own comforter on the dirty floor, but as my parents were used to living in this filth, I was sure they wouldn't mind me using theirs. Definitely. I'm sorry, Mom, Dad. There's nothing I wouldn't do if books are on the line, even if it means I get yelled at later. Oof. I got on the balled-up comforter and somehow managed to turn the Norbot, using all of my body weight. Actually pretty cute to see how she struggles to get to the doorknob. The door opened with a creak towards me. Brr! I had been pulling down on the handle with my body weight, and the door shot toward me. I hurriedly let go before it hit me in the head, but it was too late. I fell backwards and rolled down the balled-up comforter before hitting the floor with a loud thump. Ow! I stood up holding my head and saw that at least the door had stayed open. This head pain is a means to a noble end. I slipped into the open crack and shoved the door all the way open, sliding my parents' comforter across the floor. It looked like the part of the floor had suddenly gotten cleaner, but I pretended I hadn't seen anything. I hadn't intended to make a comforter that much dirtier. I'm really sorry. Oh, it's the kitchen. I left the bedroom and saw that there was a kitchen right outside. Well, it wasn't exactly fancy enough to be called a kitchen. It was like a place you could choose to cook, but wouldn't really want to. There was a smallish table in the center of the room with 2 three-legged chairs and a long box that likely also served as a seat. On the right was a cabinet with handles, probably with dishes stored inside. The wall closet to the bedroom had nails in it, with metal pots, ladles, and pans hanging off of them. There was a furnace near them that probably worked as a stove. A string connected 2 walls and had dirty rags hanging off it. They looked so dirty they probably make whatever they touched even more unclean. Yuck. I think I know why I'm sick all the time. The corner opposite from the furnace had a large water jug and a sink-like water basin. As expected, there was no running water. To top things off, there was a large basket filled with potatoes, onions, and other food products. There were a lot of things I didn't recognize, so it was possible that the potatoes weren't actually potatoes at all. This one is kind of like an avocado. I wonder if I can get oil from it. I looked through the food and found one food in particular that interested me. If I could extract oil from it, I might be able to do something about my itchy head. My mom, from back in my Orano days, had a habit of getting obsessed with one random thing after another. She could only be described as whimsical to a fault. She made whatever was in front of her at the time the focal point of her life. TV shows about saving money, magazine articles about living in nature, foreign activities in the cultural center, anything. She always dragged me along with her, saying she wanted me to get interested in something other than books. But I knew she only ever got involved with things that interested her. Having no other choice, I tugged along every time, and thanks to that I might have learned just enough to make shampoo on my own. Thank you, Mom. I think I might just survive over here. Encouraged by my finding, I looked around the room and saw that there were 2 doors, other than the bedroom door. Aha. Left or right door, which one's the prize? The kitchen didn't look like it had a bookshelf anywhere. I saw that one of the 2 doors was cracked open, so I pulled it all the way. A storage room? Guess this isn't it. It was a room packed with stuff I didn't understand the purpose of. There were shelves with stuff on them, but it was a real mess and it didn't seem like the kind of place that would have a bookshelf. I gave up on it and tried opening the other door. It made a clinking sound when I pulled on it, signaling that it was locked. Minutes of trying to open it yielded no results. The door would not open. Wait, is this the door Tuli left from? What? Is that all? If this door led outside, then our home had no bathtub, no toilet, no running water, and no bookshelves. It had nothing. No matter how hard I looked, I couldn't find any other rooms. God, do you hate me? Is that a cruel joke? I asked to be reborn so that I could keep reading books after all, even after I died. I didn't intend to be transported to another world with my Japanese memories and customs, forced to live in a home with no bathtub, no toilet, and no water. I thought for sure you'd take me to a world filled with books. Maybe books are expensive here. According to my knowledge of history, books were extremely expensive until the invention of the printing press led to their mass production. Those not born into a rich or noble life would generally never read a single book in their lives, in which case this wouldn't be the kind of world where you give your neighbor's kid a picture book as a birthday gift. Fine. I'll start looking for letters first instead. I didn't absolutely need books in order to study this world's writing system. Posters, newspapers, manuals, calendars, and all sorts of things naturally had letters written on them. So they did in Japan at least. Nothing. There's no letters anywhere, not a single one. I had walked around the rooms, searching every shelf and cabinet I could find. But not only had I not found any books, I didn't even find anything with a single letter on it. I couldn't find letters or paper. What's going on here? My head started to hurt, as if a fever had burst up within me out of nowhere. My heart dropped and I could feel it streaming out, valves tightening. I dropped to the ground like a doll with its string cut. My eyes burned on the inside. Well, okay, I got crushed by books, no helping that. That was basically my dream of dying buried by books, fine. And it was true that I myself has asked to be reincarnated. I understand all that. But, you know, there aren't any books here. There aren't even letters, not even paper. Can I really live in a place like this? Do I have any reason to live? A tear dripped down on my cheek. I had never even once thought about a world without books. Such a thing was unfathomable to me. And yet here I was, unable to think of a single reason to live on this world as mine. I felt my insides go hollow. I couldn't stop crying. Mine, why aren't you in bed? Don't walk around without your shoes on. Tuli had gotten home at some point, and seeing me on the kitchen floor, shouted with her blue eyes open wide in anger. Tuli, there aren't any books. What's wrong? Are you feeling okay? Tuli, I want books. I want to read books. I want to read them so much, but there aren't any books. Tuli called out to me worried, as tears dripped down her cheeks. But she was completely used to this world without books. She wouldn't understand my pain, no matter what I said to her. Is there anyone out there who can understand me? Anyone who knows where I can go to get books? Someone tell me, please. No. Those were the first 2 chapters, basically the first 3 chapters of the book. And it's almost an hour, so I think I should stop here because, reading too much now could actually result into some kind of trouble, maybe. So this was the start of mine's struggle in the new world. A hardcore book fan who can't even find any books. I hope that this was a nice little teaser to you so that you would like to maybe get interested in this story. If you want to see the anime, do it. It's a slow start, I must say, but after like 4, 5, 6 episodes, it gets better. Then the second season is really good. Third season even better. And I started reading the books because, the anime was so good at the end that I wanted to know how it continues. And I read through all 24, 25 books that are released right now in English. And like I said, thanks for listening to the stream. If you have any tips what I could do better next time, maybe checking that the channel is set correctly. And anyways, have a nice day. Thanks for dropping by, and please stay healthy. Bye.